we had an awesome kickoff to our new AI community of practice last week. This was a collaborative effort among the 6 regional nonprofit education service centers in Connecticut, but we were thrilled that ChatEDU listeners from Massachusetts, New York, Pennsylvania, Oregon, and even France joined in serendipitously. As we prepare to continue the community of practice next fall, we want to invite any ChatEDU listeners to join in. If you would like to take part in the next academic year, please email us at chatedu@edadvance.org. That's chatedu@edadvance.org.
Yeah, that's a great idea, Liz. We'd love to extend the reach of this COP, the community of practice, to make sure it's impactful as folks can share resources and experiences. And, of course, as it would have to happen, we did have a small tech glitch to inaugurate this community of practice.
Matt, what was that?
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. So 11 Labs that we use a lot for voices and other effects has created a text to sound effect generator. So I don't know. The sad trombone was just calling.
Oh, geez.
But anyway, I know. So we had this tech glitch, and it got me thinking, by the time we schedule the next community of practice, we may have GPT-5 or some other model with what are called agentic qualities. This is something we've talked about a little bit before. Right now, ChatGPT or Gemini will just go back and forth with you. But, GPT-5 or Gemini 22 or whatever the case may have the ability to plan, to reason, to take a multi-step series of actions that includes different websites. And so putting a community of practice together has lots of moving parts. And who knows, maybe an agent can actually do that.
That's a wild notion, and I wonder what that'll feel like. For all of human history, there are times when stuff just happens. Mm-hmm. It's Murphy's Law. And I know as a team, we spent real time with real emotional stakes reflecting on our hiccup and thinking about how we're just going to learn from some random bit of unintentional human error. What's that going to look like when an AI agent gets something wrong that's important?
Yeah, I have no idea. It seems entirely inevitable that there will be errors. But a little more complicated, right, than to reflect together and learn from the mistake. In some cases, maybe an AI agent will also add all sorts of insights simply because the AI has access to lots of information. It can look at it from a perspective we may not have. It might see something in the registration list or in the pre-community of practice survey that we put out that's compelling and useful. But undoubtedly, it will also screw up. I mean, if Google AI summaries are telling folks to eat rocks, I'm not sure I'm ready to trust GPT-5 to planning our next community of practice.
Yeah, it seems like we're going to need a new version of Murphy's Law. Maybe the Turing truism, where there is a 0% likelihood that an AI agent is not going to mess up in problematic and at times hilarious, ironic ways.
That's good, Liz. I like that. The Turing truism. We'll have to check back on that next fall. I'm Matt Mervis.
And I'm Liz Rade.
And this is ChatEDU, a podcast about AI in K-12 education. In today's episode, AI surrender. Professors throw in the towel on writing. We'll explore what may be a crack in the dam with respect to AI taking over a foundational skill, in this case, in higher education.
First, in the news, Matt will tell us about mechanistic interpretability and why that mouthful should matter to educators.
Then Liz will return to the topic of AI tutors via apps in the app stores.
Then we'll cut right to beneath the surface on this short stack episode as we explore an essential question about AI and writing. And we'll end with another short stack chat back. Matt, do you know what I've been dying to talk about all week?
Well, if I had to guess, I'm going to say null binding. Did I get that right?
How do you know about null binding?
Oh, Liz, please. I mean, the word null, right, is of Scandinavian origin, something I know a ton about, and it means needle. It's a combination of needle and binding. So it's an ancient fabric-making technique that predates knitting and crocheting, and it was used by the Vikings to make mittens and socks.
Well, I'm pleased at the level of interest you take in my passions, and I am certainly interested in null binding, but no, that's not what I was thinking about. I was actually hoping to talk about mechanistic interpretability.
Oh, well, that makes total sense. All right. I'm not sure if I buy that, but okay. So we discussed this topic briefly in an early episode of ChatEDU, but mechanistic interpretability is essentially like an MRI for a language model. It's a way to try to unpack the complex kind of black box nature of these massive large language models with all their neurons and layers.
Okay, I got it. But what's up with the black box? If you look at most algorithms, there's clarity about the approach. You can unpack the Spotify or Netflix algorithm and know why, if you watch Love is Blind, they are going to recommend Too Hot to Handle.
Oh, that's an interesting self-reveal, Liz. I would not have guessed that you were kind of a Love is Blind fan.
I got to do something when I'm bored.
So the black box nature of large language models is a result of their sheer complexity and the way that they've been trained. So language models are designed to learn patterns and relationships within vast amounts of data, which allows them to generate human-like text, right? However, this process makes it difficult to understand exactly how they arrive at their outputs. So unlike the Netflix or Spotify algorithms, which are programmed with explicit rules and next steps, large language models use neural networks that are trained on all this data, allowing them to learn and adjust their internal parameters autonomously. It's this kind of self-learning aspect where they're teaching themselves in a way that we can't see. It makes it challenging for humans to fully comprehend their inner workings. They're creating understanding and they're making connections independently without human oversight. So you get this black box analogy. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, gotcha. And I gather there has been some progress gaining visibility into the black box?
Yes, that's right. So Anthropic, which has become another very large AI company, has been super invested in this area of study. It's sort of in their DNA. The team from Anthropic actually came out of OpenAI, and their core thesis was that there needed to be an AI lab that was more focused on safety.
Sounds like a nice way of saying they thought OpenAI was not taking safety seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Roos on the Awesome Hard Fork podcast last week discussed how Anthropic is unlike any other AI lab or company he's visited in that folks seem anxious and concerned about what they are creating and if it will serve or harm humanity, which frankly I very much appreciate.
Yeah, I do too. They had a robust team working on mechanistic interpretability from the start, and this team has made real progress. For a while, they've been able to gain insights on how large language models are working, but they're doing it on these like super small, what they call a toy model. But in late May, they released new research using their large Claude model. We won't go into the technical details here, but there are some critical findings that relate to much of what we discuss in this podcast as it concerns K-12 education. They used a technique, Liz, called dictionary learning. In this case, it's like the data backs up into the dictionary. It can be thought of sort of reverse engineering process where the data itself is used to generate the dictionary of patterns and features. So in the study, they used internal mapping to identify how millions of concepts are represented within the model as they process all these kind of relationships to each other. They did this fascinating concept with the Golden Gate Bridge and all the interrelationships between the bridge and San Francisco and the Bay Area. I mean, I'm over my head here. Again, this is a very non-technical description of something called counterfactual concept testing, right?
That is over my head.
It's not in your daily vocab?
No.
With null binding?
No.
All right. So in a way, and this is my best way of understanding it, they sort of like pressed on specific features and it lit up in different ways. They could see that they could manipulate outputs. So what's critical about that process is that it may be a helpful way to adjust model outputs, like what the large language models do, when it comes to things like bias and hallucinations.
All right, so that's interesting. And a few weeks ago, we talked about the riddle, the nurse married the doctor because she was pregnant, and how a language model would assume the nurse was female based on its training data. So could they do this counterfactual concept testing or press on neurons to influence the outcome?
Yeah, totally. That's exactly right. So it might look something like this. I mean, I imagine there's a few steps. So first is identifying the bias. So testing could recognize that the pronoun she is automatically linked to the nurse, reflecting that gender bias. Next, they can extract features. They can use this dictionary learning to identify features representing gender-specific roles and pronouns within the model. All right, then third, they analyze these associations. They examine how the features influence the model's tendency to assign gender-specific professions. All right, fourth, you hanging with me so far?
It's a lot, but keep going.
All right, so they adjust or neutralize the features that cause the gender bias, ensuring that the pronouns are contextually linked rather than based on stereotypical gender roles. So that's basically the fix, right? They're drilling and saying, great, don't make these kind of wrong associations or just make these assumptions. And then finally, they would validate the changes. They would test the model with similar sentences to confirm that the pronoun assignment is contextually accurate and not biased by gender stereotypes.
So is that why it then comes back and says it can't decide which is female?
Yeah, I mean, that would be, or it would say, you can't make these types of associations, which we've seen a little bit.
Right. So it's sort of working already.
Yeah, a little, but this would kind of like cut it off at the chase.
All right, I like it. Go Anthropic. But Matt, that's just one model, right? It's tricky because there are 4 or 5 big AI companies and they are all doing this work independently. And I guess it's useful that Anthropic publishes this research so other AI companies can try to replicate their findings.
Right, exactly. It's interesting, too. This is sort of a different type of counterfactual, but you would think that investing resources, right, scarce resources in safety might take away from other areas that would make a company competitive as they try to commercialize these products. But in fact, like a bunch of key players from OpenAI have jumped ship and gone to Anthropic, and talent is key, right? So competing for talent is one of the big success variables as one company competes with the other. So Anthropic's focus on AI safety has actually made them competitive for talent.
All right, that's right. In our world, we're less concerned about the respective bottom lines and more interested in how they can reduce things like bias and hallucination, as those are major impediments to AI having value in our schools and communities.
Agreed. Okay, so a few weeks ago, Liz, you discussed how half of the top 10 education apps in the iOS store were all apps designed to do homework. And you were definitely concerned about cheating and how difficult it can be to be a teacher right now. But I gather you have an updated take on this?
Yeah, I do. So I'm going to expand a little bit on that because I feel like I didn't talk enough about the benefits of these AI apps and how they can essentially be tutors and can be really helpful for students and increase access and equity, 2 of my passions. So TechCrunch recently reported that these apps are being used by many students as tutors, particularly in math and science. So when you show a problem to an app like Answer AI or Goth, it doesn't just give you the final answer. It shows all the work, walking step by step through the process. Now here's the rub. A conscientious student will actually use that app to learn. They can go back and forth asking questions, clarifying steps and answers, and can use the app the same way they would use a tutor. That's great news for so many students. Private tutoring is expensive. It's prohibitively expensive for many students. Physics and math tutors can run $100 or more an hour because they are in high demand and they're hard to find. These apps are free, or if they do have a price, the yearly cost is significantly less than even a few hours of tutoring. These apps are also available to answer questions anytime, anywhere, so students don't have to wait to see a teacher or a tutor. One student in the article says he would get stuck on a problem and spend a long time searching online for a video to explain the concept. But now he can get personalized help right away. I know that when I've searched for help on different topics, when I've taken classes, it's hard to find the exact way my teacher explained something, and then there was still no way to validate my answers since the problems were never identical, and a lot of times I didn't even know where to start my search or what to call it, especially in these more technical fields. So the issue will continue to be, however, is how the students are using it. So in the article, the students that they reported on were all very conscientious and motivated to learn the math they were studying. I'm sure that there are many students who do just want to copy the steps and turn in the homework, but that's only hurting them in the long run when it comes time to take a test or actually apply the math in a real-world scenario, my preferred method of seeing if the student has learned the concept. If they haven't actually learned the math, they're going to be stuck.
Yeah, that's interesting. I value your willingness to reflect.
Thank you.
We do sometimes approach this conversation as if it's a straight binary choice. Apps that can facilitate cheating mean that kids will simply cheat, or AI can bypass useful cognition, so all learning will be bypassed. It's as if students don't understand that there is an ethical or learning consequence to these choices. And I do wonder if sometimes we're selling some or really many students short. When we've been out interviewing students in our programs, and not just honor kids, many kids have said, this AI is annoying and I don't like that I have to fact check the outputs from Google, or I prefer my own writing and my own voice. But at the same time, Liz, right, these kids will say, but I like using it as a tutor, as you're saying, or to help for a test. So it's not a simple black and white.
Unfortunately, with Google's new AI overviews, they're going to need to fact check those results too, unless they want to use non-toxic glue to help cheese stick to pizza or eat rocks. If that means nothing to you, check out our episode, AI, Hope or Hype. Also, for now, most of these apps are text or image in, text out. But we saw the example with Sal Khan and his son doing math just a few weeks ago, and that really raises the bar. The app was asking questions, not just giving answers, and all the exchanges were voice in and voice out with the additional use of the camera.
Wait, Liz, I have to say, I don't know if I'm totally annoyed, but I'm pretty annoyed with OpenAI. Basically, that whole ChatGPT 4.0 release was bogus, at least for now. I mean, it's real, but, the magical Sal Khan version and the voice feature you just described, along with a bunch of other stuff, was released on May 13th. And 90% of that is not yet migrated to user accounts.
All right, patience, Matt, patience.
No.
In the meantime, this article definitely broadened my thinking beyond apps being just for cheating. I've worked with literally thousands of students in the past 25 years, and I know there are many who would really benefit from using an interactive tutor like this. Well, Matt, we've basically avoided the topic for as long as we can, but 2 English professors from Carnegie Mellon University have essentially forced our hand.
Ooh, that sounds a little dramatic. I feel like I need another 11 Labs sound effect, but yeah, I get what you mean. In fairness, what we're about to explore is a topic, or at least a theme, that we've touched on several times. So the topic is the degree to which AI can take over a key skill or a habit that's important to what it means to be an educated person or just living in the world.
Right. In episode 10, we explored a Substack from Mark Watkins titled, "No One is Talking About AI's Impact on Reading." So we talked about it. And it's a great example of how AI can handily do something that has been central to our existence as educated individuals and what might be lost along the way. And we also explored why folks are summarizing reading using AI and if there are any viable use cases. What else, Matt?
Well, this is a unique example, but in episode 5, we talked about the AI-assisted dating app Volar. And as I suspect you'll recall, Liz, when folks use Volar, their AI avatar represents them as it goes out and has interactions with other Volar profiles as represented by their AI avatars. And they have been doing what during episode 5 I called pre-courtship meetings, which tells you, first, how out of touch I am, and second, how unromantic I am. I'm not sure anyone's used the phrase pre-courtship since Bridgerton.
Yeah, with kindness, I agree that was a lame phrase. But you went on to make the important point that it may not be wise to turn over the bucket of skills represented by pre-courtship, as you say, to AI. But this one is taking off. I saw that Bumble is piloting the same approach. Not that I'm on Bumble. Okay, enough stalling.
Adam, she's on Bumble.
I am not. Okay, so enough stalling. We have to rip off the Band-Aid and talk about writing. Let me read directly from the story we're covering on Fast Company, how 2 professors harnessed generative AI to teach students to be better writers. Suguru Ishizaki and David Koffer had an idea for how they could set up a unique set of guardrails that would make a new kind of teaching tool that could help students get more of their ideas into their assignments and spend less time thinking about formatting sentences. Quote, when everyone else was afraid that AI was going to hijack writing from students, remembers Koffer, we said, well, if we can restrain AI, then AI can reduce many of the remedial tasks of writing that keep students from really looking to see what's going on with their writing.
Yeah, that's right. The professors call this restrained AI, as you said, and they have piloted the approach through a tool that they've developed called MyScribe. These 2 have actually collaborated on a couple interesting tools over the last several years, and they did this in 10 Carnegie Mellon classes this past spring. A key feature of the tool is called notes to prose, which takes loose bullet points or stray thoughts typed by a student and then turns them into sentences or draft paragraphs thanks to kind of an interface built on top of ChatGPT. Professor Ishizaki says, a bottleneck of writing is sentence generation, getting ideas into sentences. That's a big task. That part is really costly in terms of cognitive load. He goes on, we thought, can we really lighten that kind of load with generative AI?
Now, Matt, I can feel my anxiety growing as you read that quote, and I suspect some of our listeners feel the same way. And in fairness, the professors go on to make the case that novice writers spend too much time, too early, working on sentence composition rather than really thoughtfully outlining their thinking. They also cite writing research from the 1980s that backs up this approach, and they make the case that through careful prompting, their notes-to-prose tool does a good job eliminating outside ideas in the sentence construction and sticks to the bullets students provide. So there's no hallucinations. But when the day is done, if I'm reading this right, they are saying, hey, writing's a big lift, and the real growth, at least the growth they are interested in, is in the researching, planning, analyzing, and outlining. So let the generative AI writing machine do that work.
Yeah, I think that's right. And at some level, I say kudos to them. Clearly, lots of folks are thinking this, and some say it aloud. Ethan Mollick has also teased this idea in his book Co-Intelligence and in several posts on his One Useful Thing Substack. He notes that there's going to come a time when ChatGPT and Gemini and Claude are just better writers than all of us, or nearly all of us. And at that point, do we simply turn that task over to AI?
And of course, because we're talking about generative AI, yet another new tool has been released called Perplexity Pages. Their intro describes the tool this way. Perplexity Pages is the easiest way to create comprehensive, visually appealing content on any topic. As your personal content assistant, it helps you create, organize, and share information seamlessly. Type in any topic and instantly receive a structured draft, turning what used to be hours of work into just a few minutes.
One of their taglines is, Pages allows you to get value for your ideas, not just your writing skills. And here again, this has been announced and is available to some, but clearly not all users are getting access to it, including you and me. Apparently we're not popular enough. And we'll see where it goes. Perplexity Pages, is also prone to hallucinations and bias. People are creating these really pretty looking kind of Wikipedia-style pages in a matter of minutes. And these things are up on the web. And as we talked about in the last episode, then the generative AI systems are able to train on these types of pages that may, in fact, have some hallucinations. So there could be unintended consequences. But to the point of this beneath the surface, it does really get at the issue of a key foundational skill being hijacked, co-opted, what's the right word, by AI.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. I don't think I like it, but we'll have to see where it goes.
I agree. And who knows, maybe in 5 years, we'll look back and we'll chuckle about this. The idea that humans used to message each other before going out on apps for a date. Like, that was cute. Or even the idea that anything except for Claude, or maybe in this case, Perplexity, will write when the writing actually matters. I mean, we'll see. But given that writing is such a central part of K-12 education, post-secondary pathways, and work, and what it simply means to be in this world, we do need to talk about this together. And perhaps to some degree, that's what these two professors from Carnegie Mellon have done. They have sparked a conversation, at least here on ChatEDU.
This is all so thought-provoking, Matt, and it's just another reason why we go back to that AI community of practice and why it's so important that schools are thinking really thoughtfully about the use of AI, how we're going to expose students to AI, and having these AI planning teams. We love AI planning teams with student voice on them as well. So it's just a reminder of how fast this is all moving and what it could really mean as education changes. I shared last week that as we prepare to shift into summer mode, rather than unpack a question from a listener or participant in one of our sessions, we're going to have our pal Pi, or another AI phone-a-friend tool, answer a quick question related to our beneath the surface topic. But we're going to challenge the AI to answer in no more than 3 sentences. And because it's summer, we'll have a bit of fun and have said AI respond in a particular style. So this week, we've cloned the voice of our executive producer, Cam Audia, in 11 labs. So AI Cam and Claude are going to take a shot at this one. When AI becomes a better writer than all of us, should we just turn over that skill to the AI? Please respond in the style of a 90s rap artist in no more than 3 sentences.
I love it. That's awesome.
Yo, when AI become the fattest writers, we gotta flow with the times and let AI do its thing. If AI's got the skills to pay the bills, it's time for us to step back and let it drop some dope rhymes. Peace.
Nice one, Cam. As always, we'd love to hear what you think, so please let us know at chatedu@edadvance.org. That's chatedu@edadvance.org. And also, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you are using.
Fantastic, Liz. Let's roll the credits.
ChatEDU is recorded, edited, and produced by Ahmed Malik, whose dedication and expertise bring our discussions to life. ChatEDU's executive producer is Cameron Audia. Additionally, we are grateful for the support of our colleague Gary Robinson. Gary is the ChatEDU Design and Outreach Ginsu Knife, and we appreciate his time and talents. And of course, a big ChatEDU shout out to our fearless leader and incoming executive director, Jonathan Costa, for inspiring the pod. Finally, a heartfelt thank you to our listeners for joining us on this journey exploring the thoughtful and innovative integration of AI in education.
See you next time.
Bye.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Costa, and I am the Executive Director at EdAdvance. On behalf of Matt and Liz and our entire agency, I want to thank you for listening to our ChatEDU podcast. We will be dropping episodes weekly for the rest of this school year, and then we will go to a special news schedule for the summer, looking for in-depth episodes to return in the fall of 24, along with a community of practice and a new micro-credential as well. Take care, and thanks again, and tell your friends about ChatEDU.